creature, it gains haste till end turn. This card has been around for a long time, and I've never shied away from playing a copy in a limited and or sealed, just get this centered, limited in a sealed or draft. I usually like to play one. Not more, but one is very nice, especially if you have a nice little sack outlet. You take your creature, attack them with it, then sack it. So no, you don't get it back. But like I said, it's fine. Play one in any deck you can. I wouldn't necessarily splash just for active treason, but if I'm playing red anyway, this is potentially making it in. Not always, but for example, if I take Rakdos, I'm probably playing one active treason. But if I go Orzhov and splashing red, this may not be one I'm splashing for. Amplifier. Again, the puns on Rakdos cards. Amplifier is 2 generic mana and 2 red for a rare elemental. It's a creature. It's a 1/1. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Until your next turn, Amplifier's base power and toughness becomes twice that card's power, and its base toughness becomes twice that card's toughness. Put the revealed card on the bottom of your library in a random order. The revealed cards, sorry. Including the one you revealed to turn Amplifier. Gigantic. So in Gruul, this is going to be real good. I mean, in any deck, this is going to be really good. I'm playing Amplifier for sure. The only downside to this is you see that really cool big creature, you don't get to play it, it goes away. But I do really like Amplifier, just because it can potentially be really big. It could potentially be like a 2/2 as well. But I do like myself an Amplifier. It's a bit of a gamble effect. It's just fun. It's a fun card to play. It's a double red, so it's harder to splash, but Gruul and Rakdos both have plenty of payoffs for this card. Our first Rakdos split card comes early with Bedeck and Bedazzle. Bedeck is 2 hybrid Rakdos mana, so a black and a red, and a black or a red. For an instant, it says target creature gets +3/-3. So this is the big kind of Rakdos likes to... It'll hurt itself, but it'll have fun while it's hurting itself. So it'll +3 to potentially really get in there with something big with Trample. It's good in Gruul as well for that. Or kill something of your opponent's that's only 3 less toughness. So versatility there. Again, we've talked about it. Never a bad thing. Second half being Bedazzle. 4 generic mana, a black and a red for a rare instant. It says destroy target non-basic land. Bedazzle deals 2 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. Bedazzle is less impressive, especially in, like, there's a lot of gates in most other draft or sealed environments. Bedazzle would have very, very few targets. In Ravnica particularly, especially because all of the packs have a gate in them, you're going to have more targets. Even then, Bedazzle might be the tough part. I would play this just for Bedeck. I wouldn't play this. You have to be careful. If you think, oh yeah, I'm going to blow up their land and shock them, don't play this expecting Bedazzle to have targets. They may only have 1 or 2 gates in their entire deck, so they might not ever see any of them. So you might not be able to ever cast a Bedazzle. But you have to be, if you choose to play this, you have to be happy with only getting Bedeck. If you are happy with that, cool. Again, this card is not bad. They didn't really print a bad one of these. This is just the least versatile, probably, of them all. But still, just fine card. Oh, Seb McKinnon. This is my new background for my computer. I don't know if you saw it quickly while I was switching scenes there, but this is a new background for my wallpaper. The art for this, it's amazing. Bedevil's black, black, and a red for a rare instant that says destroy target artifact, creature, or planeswalker. Kill a thing that's not an enchantment, because black and red can't kill enchantments. Other than that, it's dead. It's real dead. If you get this play, it's near unconditional removal. Unless you're an enchantment or a land, it's dead. Also, just keep it, because this is going to be played in Standard the whole time it's in Standard as well. So, congrats on opening this. You're going to play it in your draft, in your sealed, in your Standard deck if you choose to make one that includes probably at least 2 copies of this. But yeah, Bedevil, just a good card. I don't got to tell you guys that. Burn Bright. The art for this, the original painting for this, I think has, as of recording this, I've heard it's over $4,000 at auction right now. I don't know if it's still active. It is. Google that. Check it out. Anyway, Burn Bright is 2 generic mana and a red for a fixed Trumpet Blast, essentially a good Trumpet Blast. The Trumpet Blast isn't good. I've won games off the back of that. But anyway, back to it. It's a common instant that gives creatures you control +2/+0 until end of turn. The reason I say it's a good Trumpet Blast, or a fixed Trumpet Blast, is that you can play this defensively if you want to. Don't play Trumpet Blast on your opponent's turn. Don't do that ever. But Burn Bright, It's a good card. It can be offensive. I mean, ideally, you want to use this offensively. If you're using this defensively, you're probably already in trouble. But Burn Bright is a solid card. I would play this very, very happily in Rakdos, where you're going wide. In Orzhov, splashing for this, so all your spirits can get in for 3 apiece. In Gruul, obviously, so your big trampoline things can get over for even more. If you can at all play Burn Bright, I recommend playing Burn Bright. Burning Tree Vandal, 2 generic mana red for a common human rogue. It is a 2/1 with Riot, and whenever it attacks, you may discard a card if you do draw a card. So this is our first instance of Riot. Riot says, this creature enters the battlefield with your choice of a +1/+1 counter or haste. So this can either attack right away, so you can rummage, or it's going to be a 3/2 for 3, which is just fine on its own. So either of those is really good. This is kind of a fixed tribute. If you played in Theros block, there's a tribute mechanic where when a creature entered, your opponent got to choose haste or counter. This is better because you get the choice instead of your opponent. You get to choose the best situation for you, where your opponent would choose the best situation for them. But Burning Tree Vandal, in red, this is your red card selection, right? Or if you just want to play this on turn 3 and your opponent hasn't had anything down yet because it's sealed and it's turn 3, you can just get in there for a couple, right? And you'll still get to get that rummage off. Or you can have a 3/2 if you have to be a little more defensive. If your opponent already has like a 1/3 out, you don't want to just waste their Vandal. Just say, okay, it's a 3/2. If they happen to not play anything on the next turn, you can attack and threaten their 1/3, or just get in for 3 and have a good time. Captive Audience, really cool card. 5 generic mana, a black and a red. I didn't say it was a good card, I said it was a cool card. For a mythic enchantment, when it enters the battlefield, under the control of an opponent of your choice. So not target opponent, so of your choice, so you don't have to target anybody. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose one that hasn't been chosen. So this your applies to your opponent. The first your applies to you. The second your means your opponent in that it's controller. So your life, aka your opponent, becomes 4. Discard your hand, your opponent discards their hand, or each opponent creates 5 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. So your opponent is only going to get to do each of these once because they choose one that hasn't been chosen yet. So for 7 mana, you get to, over 3 turns, you will probably win. Reason being, at 7 mana, your opponent's probably going to pick discard your hand first because they will probably only have 1 or 2 cards in hand. Maybe you caught them with their bomb in their hand. If so, cool. Then I would probably pick, if it was being played against me, I would probably pick, assuming the board is at parity, other things, like, I would pick 4 life, and then I would pick the zombies. Reason being, I don't want to pick zombies, then 4 life, because then those zombies can attack me immediately when I'm at 4. I'll pick the 4 life, okay, I get a chance to play some blockers. I pick the zombies, they get zombies. Okay, my opponent, I get a chance to play some blockers, so I get 2 chances at doing that. So, but yeah, Captive Audience, if you don't win 4 turns later after playing this, you were probably already losing. Sorry. The second Rakdos split card is Carnival and Carnage. Carnival is a single Rakdos hybrid, so either a black or red mana for an uncommon instant. Says Carnival deals 1 damage to target creature or planeswalker and 1 damage to that permanent's controller. Cool. So a really good way to set off a spectacle. Carnage reads 2 generic mana, a black and red for a uncommon sorcery, and Carnage deals 3 damage to target opponent. That player discards 2 cards. Cool. So Lava Spike and Mind Rot for the same cost as a Lava Spike and Mind Rot. That's fine as well. Both halves of this are good. Both halves of this are playable and limited. Whether it's draft, whether it's sealed. It's an excellent enabler for spectacle. You know, either half of this, you want to play it early to get off. In addition, it's basically kicker, your next card spectacle cost is fine. That's for Carnival. Or Carnage, just get some good old-fashioned value out of it. So again, both of these are fine. If you can splash for them, I would splash for both of these, honestly. Carnival, a little less useful in other colors because you don't need to worry about setting off as much spectacle. Carnage, though, is just fine. Like, our opponent discarding cards is always good, whether it's Gruul, Orzhov, or Rakdos, but both halves of this card are just fine in whatever colors you can manage to play them. Cavalcade of Calamity is generic and a red for a uncommon enchantment. Whenever a creature you control with power 1 or less attacks, Cavalcade of Calamity deals 1 damage to the player or planeswalker that creature is attacking. So, what I really like with this is being able to splash this into Orzhov when I'm... When I'm attacking with a bunch of my spirits, or whatever creatures happen to be attacking, it's almost a Hellrider type effect, where just the fact of attacking, okay, attack 5 things, okay, they do 5. This is what the board stalled, and I have more creatures than you have life, okay, I just win, because I attack with them all. Bam, too late. So because of that, I'm very fine with playing a copy of Cavalcade. Because Rakdos is one of those colors that will go slow down first, because it has some of the cheapest but smallest creatures and go wide. So if you can attack once, especially if they don't have any lifelink or life gain, attack once, get in there with a couple of them, a few more of them will die, put your opponent down to 4 or 5, you have 4 or 5 creatures left, play Cavalcade of Calamity, attack on your next turn, and just win before damage even happens, right? I do like this card. Wouldn't play more than one of it. The card on its own doesn't do anything when the turn it comes in, but it helps a bunch of your other creatures do some really, really good stuff. Clamor Shaman is 2 generic mana and a red for an uncommon creature. It's a Goblin Shaman. It's a 1/1 with a Riot, and whenever Clamor Shaman attacks, target creature opponent controls can't block this turn. For the most part, unless your opponent has an empty board when you play this, for the most part, this is going to have haste, because you're going to play this, attack with it, and probably some other stuff, and say, hey, your one big blocker can't. And you're going to get in there for some damage. This is the kind of card Rakdos probably wants to play a couple of, because it enables them to get in for more damage early. But yeah, Clamor Shaman is a good card. I'm not good enough to see constructed, like standard of any kind, but is plenty fine for... I played 2 copies, probably, at most. Sealing is 2 copies of this, also because it's uncommon, in like a sealed or a draft. And Clamor Shaman, good enough to get in there. Cult Guildmage, our Rakdos Guildmage, and the final one we will see tonight, is a black and a red for uncommon Human Shaman. It's a 2/2 with 2 abilities. Imagine that. 3 generic mana and a black for tap. Target player discards a card. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast sorcery, so you can only do that on your turn. It also has red, tap. It deals 1 damage target opponent or planeswalker. So really, really good enabler for Spectacle there. It's just a kicker red, deal 1. You can do that over and over and over and over and over again, just like we were talking about with the Orzhov Guildmage, the Syndicate Guildmage. Sorry, yeah, we still have to do the Gruul Guildmage, so second to last Guildmage we'll see. So just like we were talking about Syndicate Guildmage, the fact you can do this over and over and over again makes it good. In a board stall, this could potentially help win you the game. And also, against a control deck, can just... Oh, they're holding back a counter? Okay, do the top ability first. Make them discard whatever they happen to draw that for some reason they're hanging on to. You can make sure it was a land, so, okay, it's not a pump spell, they discarded it. As the game goes later, it gets less valuable, as they'll be playing out their spells rather than hanging on to them probably. They'll see this and either just play it out, or make you pay to discard it. But I would say this is a solid 3rd in the Guildmage rankings, right in the middle. I just love the art in that he has a little Jace marionette puppet. Someone online is actually building and selling little Jace marionettes in addition to this art, so I liked that. If you like that, Google it, check it out, and help support them as well. Daggercaster, another good card. 3 generic mana and a red for your uncommon Viashino Rogue. When Daggercaster enters the battlefield, deals 1 damage to each opponent and 1 damage to each creature your opponents control. So, it's not quite Chain Whirler. It's not a 3/3 first strike, but it's also much easier to cast than Chain Whirler. This hoses the Orzhov decks hard. Even you can kind of plan it out as well if you want. Say if you have a 3/3, they have a 1/4. I'm gonna attack. Hey, oh, you blocked it. Shucks, Daggercaster. It's dead now, right? So if you can plan your attacks out like that, or if your opponent has a bunch of X1s, this is a really good card. And just a 2/3 for 4 that does this kind of effect is fine. It's not a flyer. Red isn't going to get flyers until you start paying more money for dragons. More mana for dragons. But I'd play a Daggercaster, if even just not sideboard, just main deck. Because it can have an effect on its own. Doesn't hit your own stuff, so you're good. But it can have an effect against other Rakdos decks, really against other Orzhov decks. Can hose some early cheap stuff in Simic and Gruul as well. So I wouldn't mind playing a Dagger Caster. It would make its way in. Deface is a single red mana for a common sorcery that says choose one. Destroy target artifact or destroy target creature with Defender. I do like the art on this. A bunch of goblins staring down some Orzhov statues. This is Rurikthar quote, leave no stone unturned. So with this, it seems a little... there's not. We'll get into artifacts, and we'll see there's not a ton. This is a sideboard card for me. A sideboard card that would come in if I see any good artifacts, or if I like against a blue-white or a white-black deck where you see some more creatures with Defender. But it would not make it main deck, unfortunately, for me. Drill Bit is also in here for some reason. We already been talking about that. Electro Dominance, though, is X and 2 red for a rare instant. Electro Dominance deals X damage to any target. You may cast a card with converted mana cost X or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. This is a card we talked about earlier, where that it's not good enough for here, the Lavinia. Just because Electro Dominance is in the set, isn't a good enough reason to play Lavinia. So anyway, back to Electro Dominance. It's real good. Late game, do 6 to your opponent, plus cast something from your hand. It's just instant speed, so you can do it if they happen to tap out. You can do it late game if you have 2 cards in your hand, this and your big bomb. You can burn them for 6 plus cast your bomb. So it just seems real good. I'd play a copy of it. It's rare, so you're not going to get more than one. I don't know if they would want more than one. Like, yes, it's removal, but it's kicker too, so like to kill 3/3, you gotta pay 5. I don't know. There's cheaper ways to do that, but I'd very gladly play a copy of Electro Dominance for sure. Free spells and burn. What's the more to want? Come on. Feral Macaws, 2 mana for a 2/2, literal bear, except it's a cat. It's fine. These kind of creatures, we've seen a lot of bears with upside. This is just a bear. If you're unfamiliar, the first creature to be just a 2/2 for 2 was a generic and a green for a 2/2, and it was a bear. Here's the bear. It was a bear. So these are referred to as bears. We've seen a lot of bears with upside. This is not one. So if you have to play this, you would, but preferably you don't have to. Fireblade Artist. Here's another card from my Aristocrats deck. As a black and a red for an uncommon human shaman is a 2/2 with haste. And as at the beginning of your upkeep, you may sacrifice a creature. When you do, Fireblade Artist deals 2 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. So this gives you a free sack outlet at the beginning of every turn. Then it gives you drop out your afterlife tokens, hopefully, your spirits, and you'd have a good time from there. And it itself has haste, so you drop this on turn 2, it's getting there for 2, maybe 4. Right? But yeah, I like the Fireblade Artist. I'd gladly play multiples, especially in a draft if you happen to get into this lane. Ooh, good time. Flames of the Razeboars. 5 generic mana and a red for a uncommon instant. Flames of the Razeboar deal 4 damage to target creature an opponent controls. Then Flames of the Razeboar deals 2 damage to each other creature that player controls if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. This is the Gruul, Gruul hates Orzhov card, or Gruul hates Rakdos card, or Rakdos hates Rakdos cards. But basically, if you're playing against a opponent who has a lot of low toughness things, or even if you're Rakdos that attacked into somebody, or Orzhov that attacked into somebody and bounced off a lot of things, you play this post-combat, and you just kind of wipe a lot of their board, probably. You end up killing their big dumb thing, and finishing off a lot of their other little stuff. So Flames of the Razeboar would get into a deck pretty easily, just because it reaches so far and wide, especially in Gruul, just because in Gruul you're going to have a lot of 4 power or greater. Wait till you see it. Gates Ablaze is 2 generic mana and a red. For an uncommon sorcery, it deals X damage to each creature, where X is the number of gates you control. If you're playing 2-color, this is at most going to do 2, maybe 3, if you're real lucky and pull 3 on-color gates. If you're playing 3-color, this is going to deal 3, anywhere from 2 to 4. So, it's a very conditional board wipe. I am most likely to play this in Gruul, just because Gruul has the bigger creatures of most things you're going to play red in, and is most likely to survive this kind of wipe. whereas your opponents will not do, unless you're playing also against Gruul. But Gates Ablaze, I'm kind of shy about playing this. This is one that really depends on what you pull, obviously. You don't pull any on-color gates, you're not going to play this. You pull 3, 4 of them, 5 of them, you're going to play this. So, Gates Ablaze, very conditional, would include it in the right deck. But, like I said, in the right deck usually means Gruul. That one. Gore Clan Wrecker is 3 generic mana and a red for a common human warrior. It's a 2/2 with Riot and Menace. So it can come in as a 3/3 with Menace on turn 4, which we've seen that before, and that's been just fine. Or a 2/2 with Haste and Menace on turn 4. Haste Menace turn 4, not as excited about it, because you can block it with a couple of 1/1s. I'm more excited about it just as a 3/3 with Menace. But the fact that Riot gives you the option is the best possible thing. This would be one of my later creatures. If I was playing Gruul, if I'm playing a lot of cards with Riot, this would be one of my later includes. Like, oh, okay, yeah, no, this is fine. I guess this will make it in, kind of like that. It would be like your 20th to 23rd card. But ideally, like, it's fine, but it's, like I said, one of your last cards. If you get better stuff, play better stuff. And it's pretty easy to get better stuff. But if you play 3 colors, you're probably not including him. If you're playing 2-color Gruul and you want to stick to 2-color Gruul, then you're going to play this guy. Goblin Gathering is one of the big Mardu token generators I was talking about. It's 2 generic mana and a red for sorcery. At common, it says create a number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens equal to 2, plus the number of cards named Goblin Gathering in your graveyard. So these get better in multiples. I would play 1 of these. I'd play 2 of these. I'd play 3 of these. You play a third one of these, it makes 5 1/1 goblins for 3 mana. That's fine. That's more than fine. Especially in like a Mardu token sacking kind of deck. It'd be, oh. And even in a Gruul deck, just all of a sudden going wide, plus having, like, usually with Gruul you want to concentrate on ramp and getting your big stompy things out, so I might just play 2 of these, but still, you need some early blockers if you're playing against another aggressive strategy. So I'd play 2, maybe 3 in the right deck for this. Sorry, excuse me. Been talking a lot, getting a little sore there. Gravelhide Goblin. So it's our hairy goblin. Didn't think that was a goblin at first, looking at the art. It's 1 generic and a red for a common Goblin Shaman. It's a 2/1 that has 3 and a green to give it +2/+2 until end of turn. So it become a 4/3. Good early, being a 2/1 for 2. It's a piker that can be better than a piker. So note you can do that multiple times as well. So later in the game, he can be a 4/5. Or sorry, a 6/5. You can be later in the game. So Gravelhide Goblin can get real big, real fast, real angry, real good. I'd play 1. I wouldn't want to play more than that, because once you get more than that, you have to start sinking your mind into multiple things. Whereas with this, personally, I'd want to make 1 big stompy thing. So Hackrabat, again, the Rakdos puns. Hackrabat is generic, a black and a red for a uncommon human rogue. It's a 2/3. Has black, Hackrabat gains death touch until end of turn, and pay a red to give Hackrabat +2/-2 until end of turn, so you can make her into a 4/1. Also has a spectacle cost of just a black and red. Cool. So Hackrabat, I like it. It's just your solid value Rakdos card. It's really versatile if the board's clear. It can chunk in there for 4 at a time. It can act as a death touch that, you keep that black mana up. Your opponent will think twice or very rarely attack with that 6/6, that 5/5, because your Hackrabat is back and you have 1 black mana up. So playing this, I'm splashing this in Orzhov, I'm splashing this in Gruul, playing it in Rakdos absolutely every time. Immolation Shaman, generic mana and a red. No, Gruul's going to be last. Yeah, 3 to 4 color gate deck is a... Sorry, I missed the comments there for a few minutes. They had to catch up. The 3 to 4 color gate deck is very interesting. No, I haven't... Gruul's going to be last. I did the green is going to be in Gruul. But Domri is... I have some thoughts on Domri as well, so... Immolation Shaman, for now, is generic and red for a rare Viashino Shaman. 1/3. So first of all, 2 mana 1/3. We've played him before, we play him here. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of an artifact, creature, or island... or land, looking to screen for a long time, or land that isn't a mana ability, Immolation Shaman deals 1 damage to that player. 3 and 2 red, Immolation Shaman gets +3/+3 and gains Menace until end of turn. So you're playing against Simic, all their adapt deals 1 damage to them. Somebody with an artifact that, like a locket, deals 1 damage to them every time they tap it. So that's just adds value onto that. Not anti. I played blue. Don't get me wrong. I played. I've been over this. I played the Felidar Guardian and Saheeli Rai combo when it was in standard because it was an infinite combo. But Immolation Shaman, really good card. It hoses a lot of different kinds of decks. The Rakdos cards that have to pay for abilities, the Orzhov cards that have to pay to sack things, the Simic cards that have to pay for adapt. All of these things, it will slowly ping them and make them think twice about doing it. Plus, you can just make it into a 4/6 menace, which is fine. So, yeah, Immolation Shaman, solid card. Speaking of solid cards, Judith the Scourge Diva is generic, a red and a black for a rare human shaman. It's a 2/2 legendary. Other creatures you control get +1/+0. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, Judith deals 1 damage to any target. Judith, so limited draft, yeah, just play her because stuff's gonna die and she's gonna do damage and your stuff gets more powerful. So play her. The secret's out. So Judith, yeah, like I said, limited, sealed, draft, player. Just do it. You're gonna have a good time. May not make it Mardu tokens. Sorry, into the Mardu Aristocrats deck because she doesn't do anything when you sack the tokens. She does stuff when the other things die. So including her, or would she be around? Yeah, she would do a damage if she dies, right? Or would she not be around to do the damage? Yeah, she would. Yes. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, so because I can't sack the tokens and essentially fling the tokens at my opponent with Judith, it makes me a little bit more shy about including her in that deck. She will. Yeah, okay, good. She will ping her opponent if she dies as well. But like other Mardu cards, she will, but like if those goblin tokens we were talking about die, Judith doesn't care about those, but she does make them 2/1s. Which is not irrelevant. And she does make our spear tokens 2/1s. Again, not irrelevant. So that whether Judith makes it in there or not would take some tuning, but I'm leaning towards no at this point. Light up the stage in this beautiful promo art is 2 generic mana and red for a uncommons that says exile the top 2 cards of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play those cards. Has a spectacle cost of a single red mana. So light up the stage. Interesting thing to note here. So you take top 2 cards of your deck. Had some questions about with some friends who play Magic at work about this. Exile the top 2 cards of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play those cards. So it says play and not cast. And reason for that being, if you happen to exile 2 lands, you can play those lands. You don't cast lands, you play lands. So if it just said cast, and they were lands, you couldn't play those. We learned that, I think, with Chandra, Torch of Defiance, or several red cards over the years. But with Light Off the Stage, if you do it with lands, and you happen to need lands, you can just play those. And it also says, until the end of your next turn. So if I cast this on my turn, and say I only have 4 mana, there's that 4 mana spell, I can't cast that. Oh wait, pass the turn, my turn again, until the end of this second turn now, I can cast that 4 mana spell. So, important thing to know about Light Up the Stage. So, honestly, the red, I don't usually like playing a lot of these, but in Light Up the Stage, I would play a copy of this, because this is red card draw. Red, other than rummaging and like Wheel of Fate type effects, red does not get card draw. This is the closest red has gotten to actual just draw in a really long time, because you get to temporarily draw them. Right? Your opponent gets to see them, granted, but still. So Light Up the Stage, I would include a copy of that, and also look how pretty it is. Macabre Mockery is 2 generic mana, a black and a red for a uncommon instant. Per target creature card from an opponent's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. It gets +2/+0 and gains haste until the end of turn. sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. This is going to be really nice to splash into your Orzhov decks or into your Gruul decks when they've killed a really big thing of your opponent, and then the next turn it's like, okay, watch this. Right. So important to note at the beginning of the next end step. So if you do this on your opponent's turn, you sacrifice it at their end step. So it is an instant. You could do that as a blocker, an emergency if you have to, but usually you want to kill their giant thing, bring it back under your control, and attack with it. But that's ideally what you want to do with it. But I would play a copy just for that. It's essentially like Act of Treason, but you get to pick their best dead thing, and then it also goes away. So you could Act of Treason their thing, sacrifice it. The next turn, play a swamp, Macabre Mockery it back from the graveyard. Oh, hee hee. Again, magical Christmas land, but still. Mirror March is 5 generic mana and a red for a rare enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, flip a coin until you lose a flip. For each flip you've won, create a token that's a copy of that creature. Those tokens gain haste. Exile them at the beginning of the next end step. Don't play this card. For one, it's a non-token creature. Two, yes, it could be good, but it's a coin flip. It's literally random chance whether this card does absolutely anything. Don't get me wrong, payoff could be huge. Key word there, though, could be. Literally 50% of the time, payoff will be nothing. 0. You spent your turn 6 or 7 or 8, by the time you got 6 mana, to do nothing. First of all, on that turn. Then, when another creature comes in, 50-50 shot, this card still does nothing. Do not play this card. Just don't. Exactly. Except that flips a coin. Except I don't think there's any coin flip games in Vegas. Unless you're Harvey Dent, don't play this card. Pre-Two-Face Harvey Dent, when he just had the double-sided coin. Don't play this card. And even so, that's cheating. Don't do that. Rafter Demon, 2 generic mana, a black and a red. For a common demon, it is a 4/2, and when it enters the battlefield, if its spectacle cost was paid, each opponent discards a card. Its spectacle cost is 1 more mana. It's fine. 4/2s, we've paid 3 mana for 4/2s in the past. Single color 4/2s. So paying 4 mana of 2 particular colors for 4/2 is kind of iffy. I'm not super high on this because of that. It's very Rakdos, and then it's high power, low toughness, but it's also a little overcosted. Rakdos Firewheeler is the Rakdos version of the 2/2. 2 black and 2 red for an uncommon human rogue. It's a 4/3. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to target opponent and 2 damage to up to 1 target creature or planeswalker. I like this card. Again, all of these are good. They're good enough to play, but hard to splash because of the double cost. But again, if you're in Rakdos, you're going to play it. I would play 2 of these. They're just fine. You're going to have... It hits something for 2, and potentially... It hits your opponent for 2, potentially kills something of your opponent's. It's a solid body. So, Rakdos Roustabout is a generic black and a red for a common Ogre Warrior. It's a 3/2. Whenever it comes blocked, it deals 1 damage to the player or planeswalker it's attacking. Note that it doesn't do the damage to the thing blocking it, it just reaches over and pings for 1. So if your opponent chumps it, it still hits for 1. If they just throw a 1/1 spirit or whatever in front of it, still hits them for 1. Not the blocking creature that's blocking it, but still pings them for 1. I'd play a 3/2 for 3. I'd play it. Rakdos the Showstopper. I'd also play this. Remember how I talked about random chance cards being bad with that other one? Yeah, this one's not, though. 4 generic, a black and a red for a mythic legendary creature demon. It's a 6/6 with flying and trample, so full stop. That's just fine on its own, obviously. When Rakdos the Showstopper enters the battlefield, flip a coin for each creature that isn't a demon, devil, or imp. Destroy each creature whose coin flip comes up tails. So, a couple reasons why this is the random chance on this is better. 1, it's stapled to a very good creature. 2, if your opponent has 4 creatures, statistically, again, odds are a whole bunch of different things, all that. Statistically, 2 of them are going to die. Statistically, this will kill half of your opponent's creatures. Don't ever count on it killing something, obviously, because it's random chance. But if nothing else, you have a 6/6 flying trample. That's just good. This card is worth splashing for. This card is worth, going into Rakdos, this is good. This is the, okay, I have a problem now kind of coin flip. If you can blink this, like if you're playing Orzhov and you have that, the blink card, the 2-mana blink against first strike to end a turn, that happens again. Keep in mind you'll get diminishing returns because they have 4, statistically you'll kill 2, they'll have 2 left, statistically you'll kill 1, that kind of thing. But I shouldn't have to tell you to play this constructed. This could make it in just to the Jund pile of good, valuable cards. Because statistically, it'll kill half your opponent's cards. And doesn't target them either, so it would get past any kind of hexproof shenanigans with Shalai or Carnage Time or anything like that, too. So, it also just block Shalai. I mean, hey. Rick's Maddie Reveler. Generic and a red for a 2/2. It's a rare human shaman. When it enters the battlefield, instead of me butchering that name again, when it enters the battlefield, discard a card, then draw a card. If its spectacle cost was paid, which is 2 generic mana, a black and a red, instead discard your hand, then draw 3 cards. You're like, I don't want to discard my hand. Thing is, with Rakdos, you're usually playing such low-cost aggressive things. When you pay the 4 mana for this, you're probably going to be discarding at most 2 cards and drawing 3. In some cases less, in a lot of cases less, and just drawing 3 cards. So the trade will end up positive for you. And also it's a 2/2 for 2. It's a bear with upside, right? You'll hear that phrase a lot. Rebel Belt Recluse is 4 generic mana and a red for a creature. Sorry, just checking something here. For a common Ogre Berserker creature, it is a 6/5, and it attacks each combat if able. Normally, I am not a big fan of the attacks each combat if able cards. This one is good, though. This one is 5 mana for a 6/5. It will kill something. 5 mana, kill your opponent's creature. That's good. Obviously, don't play this if you need a blocker. Like, it'll block the turn it comes in, not after that. Gruul, if you can ramp into this card, do it. If you can play this on turn 4, 6/5 on turn 4 that's going to attack on turn 5, as a 6/5, do it. I would play a copy of this. Not more, but I would play a copy of this pretty gladly. Rubble Reading. For 3 generic mana and a red, you can cast a common sorcery that says destroy target land scry tube. Don't play this. I mean, to me, this is a sideboard. If your opponent is splashing for something really, really powerful, but they don't have a lot of sources for it, maybe side it in, but it's so narrow. We saw another card that was more versatile. It said, like, destroy a target non-basic land and something else, or do something else. Play that instead of this, because this is so narrow. Yeah, that's all I got to tell you about that. Rumbling Ruin is 5 generic mana and a red for a 6/6 elemental. When it enters the battlefield, count the number of +1/+1 counters on creatures you control. Creatures your opponents control with power less than or equal to that number can't block this turn. So this is the good old, like, seismic shakes, seismic shock, whatever. The opponent's team can't block this turn. It is conditional, so of course this makes you want to put the counters on your Gruul things, or this is even splashable in, like, the Simic Adapt deck, because all of the counters on your creatures are going to basically make them unblockable, probably, whenever Rumbling Ruin here comes in. But I could see this being the top of a curve in, like, a Simic deck or a Gruul deck as well, because this is going to come in, do something, because maybe only 1 or 2 of your opponent's creatures will be able to block it all, and then you'll get in for a bunch and still have the 6/6 blocker back on the turn it comes in. So, Scorchmark is generic and a red for a common instant. Deals 2 damage to target creature. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. Good card is good. This card will not set off Afterlife for Orzhov. It just kills a bunch of early stuff, doesn't set off any dies triggers. So this kind of card has always been good and will continue to be good going forward. Skargan Hellkite is our dragon boy for the set. 3 generic mana and a red. Actually, dragons are usually female. 3 generic mana and 2 red. We won't get into this, though. For a mythic dragon, it's a 4/4 with Riot. Has flying, obviously, it's a Dargon. For 3 generic mana and a red, Skargan Hellkite deals 2 damage to fighters you choose among 1 or 2 targets. Activate this ability only if it has a +1/+1 counter on it. So you can just pay 5, get in there for 4, or you can pay 5, have a flying 5/5. They can then just ping things whenever you want. Again, this is the Jund pile of good cards deck. This is where that goes for the reasons I just stated. It can be control-y if it needs to. It can ping away a bunch of spirits. It can just get in there for 4 if it needs to. If it comes in late game, opponent has blockers, okay, 4. Next turn, 4, game over. Good card. If I'm talking about it in Constructed, obviously, yes, limited, take it. Sealed, take it. You're going to have a good time. Skewer the Critics. 2 generic mana and a red for a common sorcery. Skewer the Critics deals 3 damage to any target and has a spectacle of a single red. So think about all the cards we've seen so far that are just like tap red, do 1 damage, or just chip in with a spirit, and all of a sudden you get to like bolt your opponent. I don't like saying bolt because it's not instant, but you get to bolt your opponent, and it's any target. So you can also just kill something of your opponents as well, kill their creature. I am very excited to play with this. This is something that is going to get into Standard and stay in Standard while it's legal. Full stop. Obviously, I'm talking about it in Standard. Like I've said before, just play it in your limited decks. Spear Thrower is 1 red mana for 0/2 with Defender and deals 1 damage to each player. So you can see what they're doing here, right? So Spear Thrower, tap, deal 1 damage to each player, including you. Yeah, okay, fine. It's whatever. Deal 3 damage to your opponent for 1 red mana now. So Spear Spewer, not Thrower, sorry. Just do it. It enables all your spectacle. Yes, it hits you, but as long as you hit your opponent faster, Spike, yeah. Thank you. Lava Spike, that's what I mean. As long as you hit your opponent faster, which is what Rakdos wants to do, you're going to be fine. So I'd play 1 Spear Spewer. I don't want to play a bunch of these because it does hit you as well, and there's not a ton of life gain unless you're kind of going the Mardu route, but still. Spike Wheel Acrobat, 3 generic mana and a red for a common human rogue, has a spectacle of 2 generic and a red, and it's a 5/2. These kind of cards always shy away because we just saw several different cards that do like 2 or 3 damage, and your 4-drop here can die to all those pretty quick. This can die to like a 1-drop. We saw 2/1 drops. We saw 2/1 2-drops that leave behind spirits. We've seen a lot of 2-power things that this will trade with, and I don't want to pay 4 mana for my 5/2 just to die to a 2-drop. Spectacle cost, okay, is good, better for that, 5/2 for 3. But this is the kind of thing I want to give flying. I want to... Yeah, Spike only hits a player, though, doesn't it? I thought? I don't know, I had a Pauper Burn deck, but I haven't played it forever. Spike Wheel Acrobat just makes me nervous. Nervous enough to not want to play it. This would be like my 20 to 23rd card. It falls in that category for me. Storm Strike is 1 red mana for a common instant. Target creature gets +1/+0 and gains first strike till end of turn. Scry 1. If your opponents have 1 red mana up and you attack, watch out for this. Not just is it giving them first strike, it gives them +1/+0 and first strike, and they get to scry 1. So you come in with your 2/3 into their 2/2, it's going to die and they're going to get card selection. So just keep an eye out for that. Make sure if your opponents have a red mana up that you are watching out for this particular card. And obviously if you're playing red, play this particular card. Theater of Horrors is generic mana, a black and a red. Yeah, that's true. That's Lava Spike is as close as we're getting with that. Good point. It's generic black and a red with a rare enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. During your turn, if an opponent lost life this turn, you may play cards exiled with Theater of Horrors. 3 generic mana and a red, Theater of Horrors deals 1 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. So, just how we talked about earlier with Light Up the Stage, this is essentially red card draw. You get to exile the top card of your library, and if you do damage to someone, you can play any of the cards that this has exiled throughout the game. Yes, your opponent gets to see them, but this is the best you're getting. And to draw literally twice as many cards, if this was 1 blue, draw an extra card at the beginning of each of your turns. You can only play those cards if you've dealt damage to an opponent. That'd be played. So will this be. Not to mention the fact that this is itself, it fuels itself to give itself cards, but it also lets you later in the game ping your opponent to be able to access those cards. So this is all built into it. So Theater of Horrors, I would play this card if I'm near either of these colors. Again, if you're Gruul, yes. If you're Orzhov, yes. And if you're Rakdos, certainly yes. Tin Street Dodger is a red mana for a 1/1 with haste. It is a goblin rogue and it is uncommon. You can also pay a red, and it can't be blocked this turn except by creatures with Defender. Just kind of some neat little flavor for Tin Street Dodger. So this is solid 1-drop. It might get in there a few times. I can see this hitting for 3 or 4, really. And late in the game, you just keep paying that red and get in there for 1. Maybe you can pump it. Maybe you can throw the 1 positive beneficial enchantment on top of it. But other than that, it should be good to go. So we're going to get on to our last color now. That was our last Rakdos card. So we get on to our final guild.